it is a seriously important privilege for us as a think tank to welcome you, Home Secretary, this evening. We are so grateful to you for giving us some of your time. I can't imagine how busy you are on a week like this, and we listened with real fascination to your speech earlier. We were clapping loudly when you mentioned the Modern Slavery Act and what you're planning. We're all really inspired and grateful to you for taking this on, and frankly for being probably the first politician in at least several generations who's been willing to stand up and put this issue front and centre within British politics. And the people who want to thank you the most can't right now because they're trapped in this horrific setup. But I know one day, because of what you're planning to do, and I don't think this is hyperbolic, I think one day, because of what you're planning to do and what the government's planning to do, there will be thousands of people who will be knocking your door down to say thank you, because what this bill could trigger really could save their lives. So it's with real admiration and great honour that we ask you to say a few words this evening about your plans, and thank you again for being with us. Please welcome.
Start off with my thanks to you and the Centre for Social Justice for having shone a real spotlight on this particular issue. And if I'm honest, when the report came out, it was a little uncomfortable for government. You challenged us, but it was right to challenge us. And I'm very pleased that I and the government have been able to pick up this issue, and we will, in the Modern Slavery Act, when it becomes an act, I believe, and I sincerely hope, be able to make the sort of difference that you're talking about. And I think it's important. This is an issue which, it seems to me, for a long time we've talked about human trafficking. We've talked about people being trafficked into, particularly women obviously being trafficked into the sex industry. There's been arguments about what the numbers are and so forth. But I think we haven't really got to the guts of this in terms of recognising the criminality that lies behind this. And I think it's, from my point of view, it's by starting to look at it in that aspect that we can actually properly shine a light on what is happening. And importantly, I think, alert people to the fact that this is not just about foreign individuals being brought into the UK into the sex industry. It's about people being brought into the UK and forced into crime. It's about people being brought into the UK and forced to work for no pay. But it's also about people here in the UK, British people, being treated in this way by British gangmasters. And it's happening around us. And we saw, the incident where we had convictions in Luton earlier this year. We know that there is a case in Newport that's been brought to light. I hope that these will start to open people's eyes as to what is happening. And it's been very interesting seeing the reaction to my speech, because I've been doing a number of broadcasts, and there's a genuine sort of surprise there about talking about this as modern slavery. But I think it's important that we do, and that we keep doing so, and that we get into people's minds exactly what all this is about. And there's also been a sort of, what, surely not now in the 21st century feeling from some people. Well, yes. And it is. I mean, somebody said to me, well, isn't it, what do you say to the fact that so many years after William Wilberforce, we're still talking about slavery? And the answer is, well, we would all prefer to live in a world where we weren't having to, because it wasn't happening. But for too long, I think people have been closing their eyes to this. And as I say, trying to talk about it and deal with it in ways which didn't really address either the breadth of the problem or the severity of the problem. And crucially, as I think, highlighting the fact of what is actually taking place here in the UK. So I'm pleased that the government is able to bring forward this particular bill. I'm very pleased, obviously, that the Centre for Social Justice has done this work, that we're able to look to you to continue to champion the cause and raise it. I'm very pleased to be working with Frank Field on this issue. It is genuinely a cross-party that we're working on this, because it is something that we should all be concerned about. So I think we've got a real task to do, and in the bill what we will be doing is not just bringing together all the parts of legislation that currently exist which deal with this, but we will also be strengthening our ability to deal with the perpetrators. And there are one or two other issues that we will be addressing, which I will, when we actually are able to publish in fairly shortly this autumn, with sort of more detail about what we want to put into the bill. I hope you'll see that we are trying to address key issues. And one further thing I just want to talk about, because we're doing this at the same time as government is introducing this new National Crime Agency and dealing with organised crime, and many of these people are being, this is organised crime that is behind what these people are being subjected to, in whatever form it is of slavery that they are being brought into, forced into. In dealing with it as a crime, the National Crime Agency would have a greater capacity. It will be an intelligence-led, serious crime-fighting body. It's the first time we've got a national agency that will be working in this particular way. And this particular issue, this particular form of criminality will be up there alongside the others, like drug trafficking and other forms of criminality. And it's already, I can tell you that we've been, I spent part of last week in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and we were talking there about how the National Crime Agency can work with bodies over there on these issues and others that it will be dealing with. But we're making sure that it is up there in the spotlight of the work of the National Crime Agency as well. So we've got the crime-fighting body and we will have the legislation. And I think bringing those two together will, I hope, because that's the whole purpose of doing this, make a genuine difference to people's lives.
I know you'll have to go before the end of the session, but Home Secretary's kindly agreed to I'm going to take 3 questions. If we could keep them short, to the point, and then we'll pass over to the Home Secretary to answer those questions. Who has a question? I'll take them all 3 together. So hands up. We'll start with the lady here, and then I'm sure they'll find. Please ask 2 more questions.
Roberts from Hope for
I think there's a microphone coming. If you just say that again, thanks.
I'm Philip Roberts from Hope for Justice. In terms of the actual bill, would you be willing to consider extending gangmasters' licensing to cover other industries where we see a prevalence in forced labour, such as construction or manufacturing industries?
Just to give a bit more time for that, are there 2 other questions? Sorry, I didn't see your hand at the back. So sorry, yes, the lady there.
Juliet Henderson here. Just hearing you, Home Secretary, I was just thinking about education and young girls, and what a fantastic thing we could do if we could educate young girls in schools about the dangers of trafficking. It's not something we talk about in schools. I see that as a former teacher, so it would be wonderful.
Okay. 2 questions.
2, right. In reverse order, I think you're right. I think there's a huge job to be done, as I said, in terms of educating the public as to what's happening and why it's important to deal with this. But ensuring that girls, particularly who might find themselves being subjected to this, actually are aware of it and know about the signs and the issues and what they might be dealing with, I think is important. There's a wider issue, I think, for girls in schools about some other issues too, like female genital mutilation, forced marriage, where we need to be ensuring that they are aware of what could happen to them and how to tell the signs of what is happening to them as well. On the gangmaster licensing point, we will be looking at, one of the things that we're hoping to do is to be able to obviously give a period of time when we can take some public views on this issue and the various issues around it. And within that, obviously, we will then look very seriously at any proposals that come forward. So I can't give you a categorical here and now, yes, we would do that. But I think we need to think how we frame the legislation in terms of, it may not be, you've suggested one particular solution. What lies behind it is, let's make sure we're catching every form of modern slavery And that's about how we frame the legislation, it seems to me, and there may be different ways of dealing with that issue, but making sure that we're catching all the forms of modern slavery is the key thing.
I might ask a third question then, given that we didn't have on the Frank Field point. I think it's a great idea to bring him in to try and build some consensus. But what hope do you have that this bill may sail through with a cross-party consensus? I mean, what on earth could Labour do to derail this process?
Well, it's a very good question. I would sincerely hope it will sail through. Now, that's not to say that it shouldn't have parliamentary scrutiny, because of course it should have parliamentary scrutiny, because that's part of our process of legislation, to make sure that we get it right, or as far as possible, as we can get it right. But I would hope that there will be no dissenting voices on the principle of dealing with this issue and the principle of bringing the bill forward. So I would hope that it will be able to, and I aim to make it, I know we're dealing with difficult areas, one of the things I would aim to do is to try to make it quite a small bill, or short bill. We've got to cover everything we need to cover, but I think if it gets too long and complicated, then the danger is that people can find things to object to, and you lose part of the point of the simplification, which is of bringing all the bits of legislation together. So I'm aiming for quite a relatively short bill, and hopefully, as you say, one that actually nobody can object to.
Thank you so much.